Hi, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, how you doing? Thank you very much for joining me for another random instalment of The Great Apostate. I've been rambling a bit of late. There's not been a coherent theme. I'm going to admit that, but I'm enjoying it. I hope you are too. You know, the views are the views are the views. What can I do? The subs the what do you call it? The subs. I'm getting lots of subscriptions. That's pretty cool. It's going to my head a bit. It's cold over here. I've started wearing a woolly hat, which doesn't really improve things. Who has a head this size? The cone heads. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, that's the hat my wife gave me. Very kind, but I mean, I have a rounded head like most people. Well, as some of you may know, my friends on Facebook, uh, I was at the Ulster Hall last night with my wife Linda. We had a fantastic time. We went to the orchestra, a full giant orchestra for the first time in my life. It was absolutely amazing, but it was a bittersweet trip for me. The last time I was at the Ulster Hall, first of all, wow, I was about 18, I think. But even then, although I was the same size I am now, more or less, it felt so much smaller. This time, I don't know why that was, but maybe my memories had made it vast, but it wasn't a big building at all. But there was I, and the last time I had been for any other purpose, the only time I'd been for any other purpose was for assemblies. Only been for assemblies. And I couldn't help but compare and contrast, if you ever do that. And I thought to myself, I've been to this building, I know it inside out. As a little kid, I used to sneak up the back and open up the tiny little doors at the back so I could watch the public talk, and then close the door before the ministerial servants charged up to find out who was doing it. And so I know the place back to front, but this is the first time I've seen it in such beautiful use. Uh, and the pianist was there, and he was a very good pianist. Apparently he's like one of the best, in the UK. And he was ostensibly showing us how awesome he was by playing Rachmaninoff without notes. So he was up there and he was doing all this face up in the air, and it was like he was looking at someone. Oh, the angels are guiding my fingers, like that. And I remember I was telling my mum about this, and I was saying, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of when you're at the Kingdom Hall and you knew all the words to the Kingdom Melody, and you were like, I'm singing the Kingdom Melody. No, don't give me that book. I don't need the words, because I'm me. I'm holy. What can I say? Except I know the words. Anyway, that's what I put me in mind of that. But the other thing it put me in mind was the building itself. The last time I had been there when I was 18, and I had sat in the upper left hand corridor talking to a little old lady called Phyllis Hetherington. And for some reason, I was always quite friendly with Phyllis Hetherington, even though I was an 18-year-old guy and she was a 75-year-old woman. And at the time, and she was getting senile. She had dementia problems for quite a while, and she used to talk about her past, stuff that she remembered better. And unfortunately, one of the things she remembered was that she had, terribly tragically, she had put her baby in the bath when she was a young mum, and I think the baby burnt, then died, because they were pouring buckets of water in, and it was boiling water, and she must have been confused. But she used to tell me this, and then she started crying in the stairwell. And she started trying to talk about other stuff, and then she was forgetting, and she was so upset. And I remember sitting beside her and hugging her and saying, "It's okay, Phyllis, it's okay." And then that brought me forward to when I left the Witnesses. About 2 years after I left the Witnesses, she finally died. And all the people that I was friends with and called brother, and even people now who would see me and even shake my hand, Roddy Moore, for instance, who's an elder in my hall, he'd be about the only one, to be truthful, but even he never contacted me to tell me she died. And that's the only funeral I would have gone to in a Kingdom Hall, to be honest. But they never told me, so that was quite upsetting. But back to the orchestra. Orchestra's awesome. If you ever get a chance to go to the orchestra, I highly recommend it. I thought I like culture, and I like learning things, but sometimes I bite off more than I can chew, and then I realize that I'm really just a working class guy, and I thought this might be this time, So I paid my £40 for tickets. 42.50. It's a lot of money. Of course, that's one suite. That's how much I charge to clean a suite, £45, and I'm pretty cheap. But I got there and I thought, 2 hours of this. It's gonna be this could be a big mistake, Neil. And as it turns out, it wasn't. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. The music was just sublime. Is the word you want to use? It was beautiful. I enjoyed it so much. And one of the things that I thought about was that I have been in this building for must be well over 100 hours of my life, probably several hundred hours in fairness. When you consider they're 16 hours at a time of your life over a weekend, and I've done that probably 10 times, so at least I'd say 160 hours of my life in that building. And this 1 hour and 45 minutes was the first time that I have ever experienced anything that truly moved me or was truly beautiful. And it was just such an experience. It was absolutely wonderful. Then the other thing occurred to me, and I thought to myself, this guy was, the conductor was funny and he made jokes and the music was wonderful. And then I thought to myself, how unlike the Jehovah's Witnesses. There's these guys. He played at one point. He played a piece called the Warsaw Concerto. Did I pronounce that terribly? And he played this piece, and it was all about the Polish struggles against Nazi Germany, beginning of the war. And I thought, oh wow, that's terrible. But then it made me think. There was people going into the concentration camps, and there was work makes free, or Arbeit makes Mac free in German, I think it is, saying work makes you free. And they walked into the concentration camps and they never came out. And the Jehovah's Witnesses have their own one, the truth sets you free. And very much like the Nazis, they have this idea that they have a truth, that they have only the one understanding. That everybody's a little bit lesser than them unless they're a member of the same following. And there's this beautiful orchestra playing the Warsaw Concerto. I said it right this time. And I was thinking, the Jehovah's Witnesses, for all the hours I spent in that building, they never once taught anybody anything. They never built anybody up. They never produced beauty or truth or anything wonderful for the world. Instead, they just took off it. Unless you'd come in fact, and then I said to my wife, if you were a kid whose parents just came into the Witnesses and you were a little violinist, who was really exceptional, that they would actually make efforts to try to get you to stop doing that, because what's the point? But if you were an adult who came in and you were a violinist, they'd say, see, look, we've got violinists, we're normal. Because that's how they do these things, and they would use you and say, oh, look, she makes songs for us because we're just normal, we have violinists. And much like the Nazis would have that in the concentration camps, they had orchestras to pretend that it was a normal environment and that they weren't this evil, destructive place. The Jehovah's Witnesses use people's skills so long as they learnt them outside on their own time, and they pretend that they're not evil and destructive too. And it made me think, but I have to say, the 10 pieces of music I listened to last night for 1 hour and 45 minutes, not counting the interval, was the nicest use of my time in the Ulster Hall for my entire life. I absolutely loved it. And I urge you to go too. And if you're a non-Jehovah's Witness that's studying, if you're a Jehovah's Witness who's still in, sorry guys, you might want to think about the parallels between the destructive way your cult seizes on people's talents if they already have them, but destroys them if they are only learning them, and uses those people for other much more useless means. Guys, thanks very much for watching. I think I can also finish this video with an impassioned plea to Mike and Kim. Come back, we miss you. You can't be just, the ex-Jehovah's Witness community doesn't need too much of me. We need more of your craziness. Guys, thanks very much for watching. Have a good evening. Take care.